so today's topic, it's very interesting. It's about understanding death. And it's a topic that came up in the Vibrations retreat. And any of you joining and watching now or watching the recorded video of this live, there's wonderful retreats that are going on, and you can always join gurudam.net. If somebody can write it down in the comment section, Antti or Fabiana, write the gurudam.net link for the account, and there you have all the different retreats that are going on. Right now we're doing online retreats and they're amazing. I feel like I am flying in the clouds and I feel so happy, and there's no words to explain how powerful these online retreats are. And even though we're far away, Guruji's energy is so powerful that it reaches each one of us in every corner of the world. So I invite you to join the next retreat. They're wonderful. It's a wonderful group of people. And anyway, thank you very much, Guruji, for being here, for answering all our questions. And any of you is welcome to give us ideas for any live topics you would like to know about. Guruji's are his name is, he's Guru Bhaneshwaranand. He's enlightened and liberated, and he explains all the topics in such a simple way that we can understand it. And your questions are always welcome, so you can write them in the comment section, and I will be happy to read them to Guruji. So Guruji, we can start to understand death. We can start with the live. Thank you very much for joining us and for being here. Namaste to you and to everybody joining.
Akhand mandalakaram vyaptamen characharam tat padam pujitam chayo tasmai shri guruvai namah. Praying to my Guru and all other Gurus present in the universe, I start discussion on today's topic, understanding death. Life and death is a cycle. So if you have understood life, you will also understand death. And by the way, before I start, I would like to point that everything in the human life, we want to make it quick. I want to make $1 million and I want to make it very quick, always. I want to build a house, I want to do it very quick. I want to complete my education very quick. Everything I want to do quick. But one thing which is known to us, and any other thing also, in case there is something that has to happen, like if you have to travel to some place, maybe you have to go to Germany, you will like to go faster. Everything you want to make fast. The only thing what we know that has to happen and it has to come and still we want to delay it is death. And then let us understand what we are. We are soul present in our body. And velocity of soul is very high. Or you can say my velocity is very high. Okay? It has got intense strength and want to move everywhere quick. our body contains it. As long as it is capable to contain me. And for any reason, if body becomes weak because of the old age, because of an accident which has taken place in the road and it got damaged, because of that it became weak, because of anything, drowning in the water, being burnt in the fire, for anything, if our body becomes weak, it is no longer able to contain my velocity. It is no longer able to contain the speed of our soul. Soul is us, and therefore I say my velocity. And whenever it is not able to contain the velocity of the soul, soul goes away from the body. This process of going away from the body is called death. And then where souls go? Souls remain in fourth dimension, close to where you were. The only thing is you are not able to see them. Now, what are these dimensions? We talk about a lot. One of my disciples these days, he asked me every day, third dimension, fourth dimension, second dimension, first dimension. And I try to avoid all these questions always, because I don't want to talk about death a lot. I want to talk about life, enjoyment of life. But since you have today chosen the topic, we go a little deep and understand what these dimensions are. A virtual line, if you draw on a paper, it is one dimension. It's an infinite line containing infinite points, but it is one dimensional. It goes rightwards and leftwards, and it is a single dimension. You can say points are x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, x infinity, and this side also infinity, and in center it is 0. This is one dimension. Second dimension is a plane. I have brought today this notebook. Look. This notebook is a plane. It contains infinite lines. This is one line, second line, third line, fourth line, fifth line, sixth line, seventh line, eighth line. Okay. So, and what is this figure? This is two dimension. You have length and you also have width. So when you put on paper, when you put a paper is a two-dimension figure and it is called plane. It is called plane. उसको बोलो बाद में फोन करें माया. I'm sorry, there was a unnecessary disturbance of my call. So it is called a plane. Now when you talk about the three-dimension figure, it becomes space. A plane contains infinite lines and space contains infinite planes. So in one dimension you have length, in two dimensions you have got length and width, in three dimensions you have got length, width and height and depth. Okay? What is fourth dimension? Fourth dimension is something, it is hard to analyze because it also contains time. And in the fourth plane, infinite spaces, like in a line, infinite points can be there. In a plane, infinite lines can be there. In a space, infinite plane can be there. And in the fourth dimensional figure, you can have infinite spaces. So as long as you are alive, you are in a gross form. The moment you are dead, you go in subtle form. Subtle form, whatever the spellings are. Okay? And in this subtle form, as I said you, infinite number of planes it contains. In a very small thing, the whole plane can be put in. And in this space, our souls resides. Okay? So, journey from 3 dimensions to the 4th dimension is death. In case we want to talk in terms of physics, we can say journey from gross to subtle is death. Journey from
where to where? What did you say? Journey from?
Gross. Gross profit and gross, GROSS.
Okay.
Journey from gross to subtle, SUBTEL. Journey from gross to subtle is death. Journey from 3 dimensions to 3rd dimension to 4th dimension is death. And journey from plane of space to the 4th dimensional plane is death. Okay? And now we have to understand what death means to us. It doesn't mean anything. I am beyond life and beyond death. Beyond birth and beyond death. I think in some of my discussions I have told that I am not born. My body is born. What my parents produce is my body. And then I enter by subtle enters in this body and becomes gross. It starts growing as and when we take earth, water, fire, air, it grows. And as long as it is ready to hold us, ready to hold the velocity of mine, velocity of me, or velocity of my soul remains in this body. When it is like I am wearing this shirt, I will wear it as long as it fits me, it is not torn off, it is clean, for as that time I will wear it. The moment I find that it is no longer able to be borne, I will leave it. Similarly, I leave my body. Similarly, we leave our body the moment we come to know that this body of mine is not able to hold me anymore. And you see when death occurs, what happens? Body becomes weak. You are not able to walk. You are not able to, if you see the old days, people are not able to walk. I see my mom at the moment she is not able to walk. So then what happens? That soul always want to leave when body becomes weak. Or you have met an accident. where you have damaged your body and it cannot contain soul. Or something, you have become sick and body has rotten because of cancer, because of heart attack, because of several things. It is no longer able to hold our speed. Then we die and we go from three-dimensional space to fourth-dimensional plane. And once somebody asked me, how big is your body? How big is your soul? Soul is in subtle form. It is not in a space form. So you cannot find out the volume of the soul. Okay, that it is 3 meter high or 4 meter. But when it is in the body, then it is about 12 inches, 12 finger width all around your body, and it is also called pranic body. But when it leaves, then it is in the subtle form, and in this body of ours, in this much space, okay, you can have infinite souls. Okay, because it is another plane, it is another totally, and all the souls after dying, they remains around where they are dead and remains in this fourth dimensions. Now, which all way you can die, I have told you several ways by which you are dead, but you do not have control. There are spiritual people, yogic people. Yogis, what they do? They go into samadhi. Whenever they want to die, whenever they feel that their body is no longer able to hold them, they go into samadhis and tries to pull their kundalini energy up and brings it in the crown chakra called Brahmarandhra. And then the velocity is so high that crown is not able to contain it. It breaks. And when it breaks, our soul goes away from our body. This is one of the way by which yogis dies. There are other method of dying, munis. There is a community, Jain community it is called in India. They have munis, they are the sadhus, they are the priests of that community. And you know how they die? They stop eatings 1 month, 2 months in advance, and in 2, 3, 4, 5 months, slowly they leave their body because body becomes weak, because they don't eat, they don't drink, and then they liberate their souls from the body in this way. So there are 2 types of death. When you want to leave the body, and when velocity is so high that you don't want to leave the body, but still you leave. And the deaths in control means that you are complete, and death not in control, that means you are not complete. And what happens when you are not complete? You go to the fourth dimension, wait for some more days until some body gets available to you again, and you wear that body. And you again come into the life form. Whatever you have taken, you are subtle, you are consciousness. You are in the fourth dimension. And when you get the body, you come and you start taking earth, water, fire and air, you start breathing in, breathing out, your body temperature becomes higher, and these are the qualities we are able to get when we remain alive inside our body. And definition of life, what is being given at the moment on our earth by the knowledgeable people is, as long as you have pranic energy coming in and going out, as long as you are taking breath, you are alive. When you leave, you are no more taking the breath, and your earth element, water element remains here, which are to be given either to earth or water, or it has to be given to fire, earth and water. All the elements which has been taken from wherever, they go from there. Since I was not taken from anything, I was subtle and not gross, I was not taken from anything, and therefore I go as I was. And this process of my going is called death. Death is the most beautiful experience human can ever have. But the unfortunate part of it is that nobody comes to you and tell you how beautiful the experience of death was. Leaving the body can be painful. A moment before death is painful. But the moment death occurs, you feel that this thing, what was holding you, is no longer able to hold you, and you have entered into fourth dimension where you reside for as long as it is needed, you want, or is decided by your karmas, and then you take another body and take your next birth. This cycle of birth and death is fixed. Anyone who has taken birth has to leave the body. And all spiritual people, all yogis, all people who understand soul and body and mind, they do not fear it. They understand it that this is a normal course, and for this much time I have visited here, and this is my time to go, and many of them decides how to go. And the best death is taking the pranic energy to your Brahmarandra and breaking the Brahmarandra and leaving you. Human has capacity to go into Brahmarandra and leave. They lose this capacity by losing their celibate situation, by losing their brahmacharya. Therefore, in some culture,
By losing what? I didn't understand.
brahmacharya, by producing a child, by marrying, by having sex. So, when the celibacy loses, you lose the capacity of bringing your Kundalini energy naturally. You can then practice and bring your Kundalini energy, but naturally you are not able to bring the Kundalini energy to your Brahmarandra. And therefore some cultures world over has got a tradition that when the body is getting burnt, it is the duty of the eldest son to break the Brahmarandhra. So they take a bamboo and while it is burning, they put it here so that it gets damaged and no pranic substance remains in the human body, and then you do not remain attached to the people you loved, and your all karmic relationship from here finishes at that time. Otherwise what happens? Your karmic relations does not end. And when karmic relations does not end, what happens? You are born again around the same family. So most of the times you will hear world over that my daughter was also my grandmother. It is a very commonly heard world over, and I have met several families who will say, oh, in this life she was this and she has got the same natures, everything is same. It is because when you are leaving your gross form, some attachment still remains and you do not totally become subtle. And then you always tend to take birth around the same place where you have died, in your child's place, in your son's place, in your daughter's place, and you usually get born to your grandchildren. So ancestors always remain with you. There was an advertisement here in India. It said, ancestors always remain with you. And whenever I heard about that news, heard about that advertisement, I said, oh, they are making it a marketing campaign, but how true it is. Ancestors usually remain with you and they take birth also, unless of course they slip into the fifth dimensions and then they are never able to come back to you, and that state is something different. Rest, what you wanted to know about death, it is the leaving of the body, because body is no longer able to hold us, one number. Number two, it is journey from gross to subtle. It is journey from space to fourth dimension, and death is the most beautiful experience human can ever have. I wish that all of you who is listening to it at the moment and who will listen to it later, they understand what death is, and by understanding be able to remove their fear from the death. And when you are able to remove the fear of death, what remains in you is a permanent peace and a permanent happiness. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you. And it's good we still have like half an hour because we have many, many questions. I had some questions that were sent to my WhatsApp, so I'm gonna start there, and then somebody asked whether they could somebody can translate gross to subtle to German. If the German people can write it in the comment section, that would be helpful for the person that asked that. So I'm gonna start with these questions. What happens exactly at the time of death, And so there's sub questions. Is there a tunnel or a light? And do angels or family members come to greet you? And what are angels and archangels? So that's one question.
There is nothing like tunnel. Okay. When traveling is from 3 dimension to the 4th dimension, there cannot be tunnel. Yes, some experience people have said that they were about to die and they saw tunnel. They were the experiences before death. And usually a fear comes in before we leave the body. And whatever we have done in our life, those karmas we start remembering one by one, one by one, one by one. So most of the times when death is occurring, people start saying something which is not being able to, you will not be able to understand what they are saying. Number 2, their attachment is so high that they want to see their children. They want them to be with themselves when they are leaving the body because of the attachment. But there is nothing like tunnel. Okay, it's a beautiful journey from where you get greeted by the angels present in the 4th dimensions, by your ancestors if they are present in the 4th dimensions. Otherwise, you just move and suddenly realize that you don't have body. You cannot talk, you cannot produce the vibrations. So it is little strange for some time because you adopt to a new situation, but there is nothing like tunnel, or there is nothing like a bad experience when you are dying. You can go ahead to the next question. I think this question was answered.
Okay, thank you, Guruji. So the next question is, what are light beings and were they human once?
No. Light beings are, if a human is a light being, it becomes ghost. Light beings are the energy present in the universe in subtle form, and they sometimes help us. Every energy which is available can be made available to you if you are able to match your frequency with that energy. So light beings are present and they may be able to help you. You can channel them, you can get the information from them, you can find about the humanity from them, but they are not the human being. And light beings, which are the human beings, or which were human beings sometimes, and after death they are trapped somewhere, then they are called ghosts. Ghosts also sometimes help human beings, and sometimes their presence is even scary to human beings. Presence of any energy, if you are not able to understand energy, is a little scary, because you always see that I am not able to see something, but something is present close to me. Something, you always experience something around you, but are not able to see it. That becomes a little scary. But if you can understand the energies, then you can communicate with them and it is no longer scary for you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Guruji. There's another question. You say we carry karma from one life to another if we remember it. The question is, if you suffer from any mental memory disease and don't remember any of your family members or experiences, do you eliminate all that karma created?
Who says the mental disease, if you have, you will not be able to remember your karmas? I think, yes, number one, if you are not able to remember it, you will not carry to your next life. But you will be able to remember even your mental disease, if nothing else. Usually, all your karmas you are able to remember at the time of your death. But for whatever reason, even it can be a mental disease, if you are not able to remember your karmas of this life, you don't carry them to the next life.
Okay. Thank you, Guruji. Another question. If there is no good or bad, if there is really non-duality, why do people who commit suicide stay in limbo? It's just an action like any other.
Yes, but if they, you see, it depends upon what planes you were at the time. If you have understood that good and bad does not exist, then you will never commit suicide. You had committed suicide because you were bound with your karmas. Why you have committed suicide? Because you did not find any other way to escape from the situation which you were in. So, you have to come to that stage when you will understand that good and bad does not exist. Otherwise, in your computer you have written that good and bad exist. And whatever you have written in your computer forms your karmas. Then how can you be away from the karmas at the time of committing suicide? Mostly people who commit suicide, they suffer a lot in subtle form. And it is because they have been able to remember everything. You do not, I think, you meet somebody who has tried to commit suicide once. He or she will tell you how difficult moment it was for them. Okay, this person you are meeting, he has not succeeded in dying. The other person has succeeded in dying. And the time when you are trying to commit suicide, there are many karmas going on in your mind, in your everything. And therefore, good and bad does not exist when you understand that good and bad does not exist. If you have not understood that, I think from where she has taken it, there I have said the first sentence, dharete dharma. Whatever you have conceived is your dharma. And you have conceived good and bad. You have not eliminated good and bad and duality from your life. If you have, you will never commit suicide. And if you have committed suicide, that means you were in duality, you were in good and bad, profit and loss, life and death, and therefore you are still bound with your karmas, and further you have to suffer, or mostly you have to suffer, and you start suffering.
Okay. Thank you, Guruji. Next question is, do we feel the bliss of unity with Source in that instant of death? Why would we come back if so?
You do not feel unification with Source at the time of death. It is just a journey. And if you have unified yourself with source, unified yourself with nothing, then you move away from the four dimensions of time, length, width, height or depth to the fifth dimension where light gets involved, electromagnetism gets involved, and achievement of the fifth dimensions is called enlightenment. These days, the discussions are going on that world is evolving, and what is the evolution is that fifth dimensions is becoming stronger, and people will move to the fifth dimensions, and all those who can make themselves to reach there by attaining enlightenment will remain, and others will get eliminated. It is enlightenment comes in that stage, and when more people are enlightened, the world will become better place to live. The second half of the things are not true, that all other dies and only this many remains, but enlightenment theory is based on this. And the fifth dimension, like first is length, width, height or depth, fourth is time, and fifth is gravity and electromagnetism. And because of that, when you get enlightening energy, when you get even little bit of enlightenment is present in everyone. So if I remember you from here, you will be able to remember me from there, if we have reached to some energy level. And then communication among two enlightened people, you don't need a telephone. You just close your eyes, think what you want to say, and they will understand. Okay, so you reach to that stage. Death does not mean that you get unified with the source. Death means that you have left this body because it was torn, it had become weak, and after this you will wear the new shirt, a new body. Okay? Yes.
Thank you, Guruji. A question here in the comments. What is the role of a guru in a person's life and at time of death? Can guru help in the liberation process of that soul?
Yeah, when you are alive, Guru has every role for you. And the process of enlightenment or the process of completeness, you can start learning in the presence of Guru, and you can make yourself unified with Source. That you can do. And if you are able to do it, definitely in making you complete, in making you unified with the Source, Guru is definitely very helpful. And if you get even understanding, then you do not fear death. The first quality of spirituality is, first what Guru teaches you, to go beyond the emotions of fear. So if you do not fear death, death is going to be a very beautiful experience, and maybe you are, because of the fear, lot of negative things starts coming to your mind and you carry them to next life. If you do not fear death, those negative things will not come to your mind, and maybe you do not take suffering to your next life. That benefit is also there when you start learning your spirituality in presence of your Guru. Thank you.
So the question is, everyone has a clear set date of death for each incarnation. You have to die that day. So is your death date set?
No. You see, there are two aspects of any human life. One aspect is called destiny. Destiny is nothing but your previous karmas. Second aspect is your present karmas. By your present karmas, you can change your destiny. By and large, this statement that everything is fixed is true. But changing that, capacity to change that is in your mind, is in your body, is in your hands. So maybe birth was not in your hand, but death is definitely in your hand. How you will die will depend upon the kind of karmas you have performed in this life. And there had been incidences. There is a very famous incident of Markandeya Rishi, who had no life left, and he was told that in destiny you can live only for 3 more days. And then in 3 days, with the help of his karmas, he has changed himself so much that after thousands of years, he is still alive and lives in Himalaya. So destiny is definitely there, and according to that your life gets pre-decided, but the capacity to change that still remains in your hand. So work and write your own destiny by your own self. Thank you.
That's a good idea. Thank you, Guruji. Is there suffering in the 4th dimension? And if yes, how can that be if suffering is a mental state of mind?
Yes, now she answers the question. If suffering is the mental state of mind, how can there be suffering in the 4th dimensions? You will carry them to the next life again. And then you will suffer. You do not have body, you do not have a space. You can be hit only in case you have a space. If you do not have a space, you cannot suffer. But when you carry this to your next life, again your enjoyment and suffering starts. You do not enjoy and you do not suffer. And that is why we always say, soul is beyond opposites. It is beyond suffering and enjoyment. Beyond, you cannot burn it, you cannot make it wet, you cannot do anything with it. If you want to do anything, you again have to come in the human body, in the human form, to experience all good and bad emotions. To experience love and to experience grief, to experience hatred, to experience strength. You have to come, and they are the characteristics of your body and not of your soul. Thank you.
Is it written in the stars how we die? For example, by a car accident or cancer or something else? Is this fixed how we die and what cause we die from?
Yes, the indications are there. But as I said you, these indications can change. And it starts when you are born, your horoscope is made. But the moment you take your initiation, your horoscope is no more applicable to you. Because the initiation is called the process of making dvij.
The process of making?
Dvij, it is a Sanskrit word, it is a second birth. So, the first birth which you have taken at the time of birth, you have taken the second birth when you have taken the initiation. You have promised your Guru that I'll remove my ego. Removing ego is a kind of death. So, your next life has started the day your Guru has initiated you. Therefore, everything what is written in your chart, please take it as an indicative things, and it may not happen the same way if you have capacity and utilize that capacity to change the karmas of your past.
Mm-hmm.
That answers.
Wow. Yeah, I'm thinking that's amazing. Okay. Another question. It is important for everyone to be a little spiritual so they are not confused when they die, correct?
Yes. Not little, I will say they should become more spiritual, not little. Little spirituality brings in happiness to you always. Okay. And if you understand the nature of your life, how nature of relationships are, how characteristics of the human bodies are, you do not fear your death. You understand that this is a natural thing. Anyone who has come, taken the birth, has to die, and you start considering and thinking that it is very normal. And the moment that consideration comes, at the time of death, those negative emotions you are able to avoid to a great extent. And what you carry to your next life is a beautiful experience you are going to have in your next life.
Sounds wonderful. So, what is the fifth dimension, Guruji?
I told you, I think I just told you, first, second, third, fourth and fifth, everything I tried to explain you. One dimension thing is a line. Two dimension thing is a plane. Three dimension thing is a space. Fourth dimension thing is a plane which contains plenty of spaces. And fifth dimension thing, and how that fourth dimension things becomes, it becomes length, width, height and time. Okay, and fifth dimension is length, width, height, time and electromagnetism, gravity. That is how when all these five things are together, it is called fifth dimension. When four things are together, that is called fourth dimension. When three things are together, it is called space. When two things are together, it is called plane. When only one thing is together, it is called line.
Yeah. Thanks for repeating that. It's good to have the summary.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
So another question. If you don't have someone to break that in your crown, how can you break free from detachment from the gross?
There are many other methods by which you can still try to pull your Kundalini energy and break your Brahmarandra by yourself. If you are very spiritual and you are following the yogic life. If not, if you have been spiritual, then body doesn't play a role. You leave, you leave. But when you are attached, that time if somebody doesn't break it, then you remain close to that family, attached to that family, and you get born in the same family once again. Something like with the mother's sister, or with mother's brother, or in some family very close, you get born again to experience the same thing. And that is why I pray every day to God, thank God you have given us capacity to forget. And that capacity is a very, very interesting and very useful, that you do not remember. You can remember as a confusion, but you do not remember for real that you were my mother in my previous life. Otherwise, life will become difficult in this life.
Why does death scare humans if it is written by God?
Because we, the human, do not know what death is. Why it is scary? Because we know that it's end. Tell me how many of us knows that it is not an end, it is a new beginning. And the moment we understand that truth, everything in this world is scary. Everything. A cat is scary if you do not know the cat. But if you know it, you can take it as a pet. There are people who love lions. They play with lions. Lions also play with them. So nothing is scary if you know the nature of it. We have forgotten, we do not know what death is. We think that there is something, a darkness, and after that there is nothing, and therefore that fear comes in. We also sometimes resonate our death to going to graveyard, and then we will be either burnt or we will be put underground, not knowing and not understanding that what is put underground is not you. What is put underground is your body. And that is why death is scary. The day you will understand what death is, you will start enjoying your death and not suffer anymore.
Okay, so thank you very much for this hour, Guruji. Thank you very much.
You are most welcome. You are most welcome.